Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horror Vision Horror Podcast. My name is Sean,
And I am the atrocious Anthony.
And I'm Missy.
and we're going to talk about The Long Walk. And we are not going to, so this is going to be spoiler free until you hear chainsaws. I will give you ample warning. When you hear the chainsaws and my ample warning, stop listening if you haven't seen it. And I'll just say right now, if you don't see this movie, you are cheating yourself. So, guys, we've all seen this within the last like 72 hours. I just saw it today. Anthony, you saw it yesterday. Missy, you saw it Thursday.
Hmm.
Um, Missy, I think you have the most writing on this. So I want you to tell the listeners why I think that and without any spoilers, how you felt about this film.
Okay. Um, it, The Long Walk is one of my most favorite books, Stephen King or otherwise. Like it's in my top three Stephen King books, and just I've read it a zillion times. Um, and they've been talking about making a Long Walk movie forever. Like there was a point where like George Romero was supposed to make a version in like the 80s,
Oh, wow.
and it never happened. And different people, I think Frank Darabont, there was a point where he was in talks for it and it never happened. So I've always heard that it was coming and then it never happened. A couple months ago, I saw a trailer once in a theater. As soon as it started, I knew what it was and it stopped me like dead. It was my most anticipated film of this year because it is based off one of my favorite books. I was trying to keep my expectations low because whenever you love something, it's never the way you want it. And there have been lots of bad Stephen King adaptations. So I went to see it Thursday when it opened, and I was prepared to be at least somewhat disappointed, and it exceeded my already high expectations. It's easily my favorite film of the year, and it'll be a new favorite movie. Like it blew everything else out of the water. I will warn you, this movie, it's an experience. The book is too. Like you feel it. You really get to know these people. You feel it. I'm not usually a crier. I The film got me a few times. It made me feel all the things, and it even managed to surprise me. Really, it captured everything I love about the book. The beauty and the ugliness, the strength to keep fighting even when you want to give up and keep pushing through anyways, and the power of connection and the bonds that we form. I think it's beautifully shot. It really captures the landscapes. The performances are all strong and memorable, especially David Johnson, who played my favorite character, Peter McVries, who I was nervous about because he's not the Peter McVries in my head, but he steals every scene he's in. He's amazing, and I love both versions. Um, Honestly, I think it's the best adaptation of a Stephen King novel I've ever seen. There are some changes. We'll get into them later, but I actually agree with all of them because they work better for film, and none of them change the heart of the story. So, I mean, I think they nailed it on all counts. It's super brutal. If you don't know what you're walking into, like the gore is ugly and realistic, and it's going to hit you. But I think it's outstanding. And it's absolute. If you're interested, see it in a theater. What did you guys think?
Anthony, you also have a history with this that exceeds my own. So talk about same thing. What this the novel means to you, how you came about it, how you feel about the film.
I'll be honest, like I said before, I haven't read the novel since I was very, very young. The ending I vaguely remember, so it's been, umpteen years. And so, yeah, I was going into this movie relatively blind and can happily say my expectations were subverted. I really thought that this thing was going to be PG-13 for some reason. I don't know why. That's just kind of how the trailer looked to me the first time I saw it. And when I finally looked it up, which was like yesterday, probably an hour before the movie started, I found out it was a hard R. And I was like, oh, okay. They're gonna go all out. And I I mean, I know the basic premise of the story. I remember again very little about what I've read. I read it when I was a kid too. I can't remember anything about it. Getting into this film, you know what's going to happen, you know what's coming, and as you create these relationships with characters on screen, that in itself is like probably one of the most heartbreaking parts to the film because you know they're all going to go out. You know, the object of the game is there's only one winner left, one last man standing. So I get to the theater and it's relatively packed, which I was happy for. And that was like at a 6:30 showing. So people were there, you know, they showed up. And I believe the next showing at 9 p.m. was also pretty packed out. There were only three showings at my local theater, but I think it did well. The audible gasping was there when I watched the film, and I was right there in tow with all of them. I think the audience was moved when they needed to be, aghast when they needed to be, and I was just happy to see this film kind of, you know, hitting on all cylinders. And by the end of it, you're so emotionally spent by what you just watched. Because I mean, it is utterly soul crushing and debilitating by the end of the film. Um, but yeah, I can honestly say, and like I've said 1,000 times on the show before, I like movies that make me feel a certain way and can take me to a very uncomfortable place and leave me with something to think about, you know, in the post. Overall, I can tell you that I really, really enjoyed the film. I liked it way more than I thought I was going to. It's very high up there as far as rankings for the year. I think my only question about the film is this a horror film? And we'll get into that in a little while. But all in all, I can say I really enjoyed the film, despite the baseball bat to the face that you take, you know, during this crippling event. But goddamn, yeah, really well acted, very well directed, picturesque cinematography, sound design's pretty good. I mean, they found a way to keep it basic, but just constant quality, and I really enjoyed that about the flick. I like the heart that went into it. I like the effort that went into it, and again, like Missy said, as far as like Stephen King adaptations, this is probably one of the finest ones I've ever seen. So watch the movie in theaters.
Yeah, agreed. I read this 15 years ago. I don't remember it too. Like you said, Anthony, I remember the basic premise. Before today, I think Doctor Sleep is probably my favorite. Well, not just my favorite. I think maybe the best Stephen King adaptation. Although Shawshank, right?
Or
Stand by Me.
Langoliers.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we just that's so good. We'll remove it from the equation because it'll, it's a curve.
Absolutely. Okay, so Tommy
Um,
Knockers is still in the running. Good.
this is directed by Francis Lawrence, who I didn't recognize the name, and if you look at his IMDb,
he
he did
he did all the
like
Hunger Games movies except the first one.
yes, and that's definitely for me. That's not like I'm not interested, just not at all. But it's interesting because the thing with the Hunger Games is before the movies, I tried to read the book and I couldn't get 20 pages in. I'm like, this is just a bastardization of the Long Walk and Battle Royale, so I'm not interested. Like it's, whatever. So it's interesting that he did those adaptations and this one, and they probably helped prep him to make the movie this good.
Hmm.
He also did Constantine, which, would be a good movie if it wasn't based
If
on
it
John
wasn't called
Constantine.
Constantine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would be a good movie, but it'd be a movie I liked if I didn't have that cognitive dissonance about it. He also did I Am Legend with Will Smith, which I went into in 2007 wanting to hate and did not. But yeah, so I really just not super familiar with him. The script, the adaptation from King's novel, J.T. Molnar, and Missy, like you pointed out to me, writer director of Strange
Hmm.
Darling, sorry, singular, not plural. Joe Willems is the director of photography. he did His House, which I really liked. He did some of the Hunger Games movies, did Hard Candy, some Black Mirror. It's basically an all-star lineup, and I mean the actors, every man, you start with 50 people that are walking, but it winnows down pretty quickly. Um, David Johnson, who people will know as Andy, the cyborg brother, quote unquote, from Alien Romulus. If I was a filmmaker, I would put him in everything I did. You know how some filmmakers always use the same people? He would be one of my people. I would make sure to get him. I just think he's absolutely
Outstanding.
marvelous. Cooper Hoffman, I'm looking at him the whole movie, going, he looks familiar. Didn't realize Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, who made his debut in Paul Thomas Anderson's Licorice Pizza, which I loved and I loved him in.
I haven't seen that one.
Good. It's really good. And then here's one for you. Um, Charlie Plummer, who plays the bastard killer,
He's
right?
Barkovich.
He's the male lead from Spontaneous.
That's why he looked familiar. I could not place him. The other ones I do.
But the other one, like when the Major comes out the first time, I'm like, is that Benicio del Toro? And I knew it wasn't after a minute, but I'm like, I know who this is.
Really? You didn't recognize Mark Hamill, huh?
Mark Hamill. And I got to tell you, man, I'm between this and Fall of the House of Usher, like he has impressed me multiple times in the
Yeah.
last year.
I was really hoping for him to go into the Joker voice at some point on the bullhorn, but it never happened.
But this flick, man, this is a gut punch. Like I was telling you guys, to the listeners, I was telling Anthony and Missy before we rolled, my girlfriend Kirsten is literally inconsolable after watching this movie. Like she cried, and I'm not talking like you're at the movies, you tear up because like she was crying for like the last 45 minutes and couldn't eat. We were supposed to leave the theater, go to the grocery store, and I was like, "Do you want to go?" And she's like, "Just take me home." And she was just devastated by this movie, which right there, it's interesting. It means it's a great movie if it has that effect. I was like, "Did you like it?" She's like, she couldn't answer me. Like, she doesn't like the place that it had put her in. Right? It's not necessarily the movie's fault. It has a lot to do with world events as well, but I I'm flabbergasted. I knew it was going to be good, or I hoped, or had convinced myself, but I didn't expect what I got. And I just think if you do not go see this movie, you're cheating yourself. That's all I'm going to say. That's, uh, before we get into spoilers, anything either of you want to add?
Just that, I mean, all right, the Long Walk, it's one of the original Bachman books, but it's
Yes.
actually the first novel that Stephen King wrote. It just didn't get published till later. Carrie came out first. This
Really?
got published as a Bachman book, I think in 70, it's like 78 or 79. It's, but Stephen King wrote this in response to the Vietnam War. Like this was his allegory for war, and how he felt about it, about living through that time and people being afraid of being drafted and that kind of thing. And this is what came out of it. And King has talked about that when he was writing it, it was he was thinking about the bonds that like soldiers form and stuff like that that kind of inspired him to write it.
Wow.
And the one thing I knew about the movie coming is that King had said, if you want to adapt it, like I want, you have to show the brutality. You can't shy away from it. I want it to be part of the adaptation because it's part of the book.
He got what he wanted.
He got what he wanted. This is by far my favorite, but I like these kind of dystopian,
Hmm.
the Hunger Games, Battle Royale, the Human Race, all these kind of Squid Game, these movies and shows that go into this. If you're not into that, this isn't the Hunger Games. It's a lot more
Yeah.
brutal, and Like the gore and the violence is very realistic looking, so just be prepared for it. It is going to hit you. I'm not squeamish, and I knew what it got me a couple times. I mean, it's fine. I love it, but I was prepared for it. And I feel really bad that it hit Kirsten so hard.
No, I mean it's because it's good. Anthony, anything before spoiler country?
Honestly, just a warning to our listening audience. This is not a feel-good film. This isn't a jump scare film. This isn't clearly not a date night film, but it's it's a lesson in brutality. And if you're looking for a good time, go watch The Conjuring this weekend. Support the genre. Yeah, so just be prepared for something that is utterly devastating. And I think you'll like it if you have that kind of mindset when you go in, knowing that you're not going to come out uh, unscathed on the other side, and that's it. Just prepare yourself mentally. You're going to see some shit that you're just not ready for, and it's all
Literally.
right there on. Good Lord, yeah, right there on screen in front of your face, as real and brutal as you can imagine. So that's it. Just a warning.
And I'll just say, Missy referenced the Bachman books, and anyone listening that doesn't know, when Stephen King started to become popular in the late 70s, early 80s, he was like, "Am I this good? Well, let's see." And so he had, and I didn't realize that The Long Walk was the first thing he wrote, which is interesting because it's interesting he included that in Bachman books because the lore behind the Bachman books is he started submitting stuff to publishers under the name Richard Bachman to see if he would get, because he's at that point where, he's like the Mangler, and they're like, yes, cool, fine, So he's like, am I that good? Like, let me try from a different name, and it worked. But it's really interesting because Long Walk was probably previous to that, like denied, and I don't know. It's just interesting. Maybe he had changed the genre enough by that point that it was now accepted. But yeah, supposedly the Bachman books were published as Richard Bachman, or at least bought before anybody knew it was actually Stephen King. So that's why they're considered Bachman books. Okay, we're gonna run the chainsaw. Once you hear the chainsaw, all bets are off. So go see this and come back. Okay, spoiler territory. Talk about the differences between
Okay.
the book and the movie.
Okay. The easy differences right off the bat are in the book, it's 100 boys. In this, it's 50.
Okay.
Um, I assumed it was just I mean, that works better for film. It's easier to keep track of them and you get to know the characters better. Our buddy Chris, who went with me to see it, he he called out also 50 states, and it seemed
Oh yeah.
one from each state. I didn't catch that part. Also, in the book, it's 4 miles per hour. They changed it to 3. King agreed that 4 miles was probably too fast. So the walking speed was 3 miles per hour. And that stuff, like, it definitely works better for film. The biggest changes, I mean, for one, David Johnson as Peter McVrees. David Johnson is fantastic. He was excellent for the part. He was the best man for the part. He tells you how he gets the scar later. It's different than what's in the book. What they give you in the movie is actually better. In the book, it had to do with an altercation with a girl. And then the ending is completely different. And that's what I didn't see coming. It surprised me. I thought it was great. They change who wins, but then they give you a definitive ending that involves killing the major, and it made much more of a statement. The original story, it just kind of ends. It stops abruptly and it just ends. And I thought all of these things worked better, but I loved what they did with the ending. It had more to say. And it gave people an ending they'll remember.
Anthony?
The film's character rich. The two main guys are outstanding, but the movie like it tugged on my heartstrings immediately because the guy's like saying goodbye to his mom, and he knows he's got a 1 in 50 chance of survival, you know? And I don't know, just kind of like I said, it just hit me in a certain way because like I don't have my mom anymore, so to see this kind of interaction on screen was really cool. And as his story kind of unfolded, and you hear about this quasi, totalitarian government that's in here is, you know, the reason why he lost his father too. Like it's so weird how they portray government. I guess a lot of that I'm kind of used to from watching all the Hunger Games. I'm actually a fan. I've never read the books, but I'm actually a fan of the movies. So
Me too.
yeah,
I've read the
finding
books though too, but
yeah, finding out that this director was the same dude, I was like, okay, so a lot of that's going to come across. And I found a lot of those isms during the film, and I'm like, okay, this works, you know. But goddamn, like it just the sheer amount of like sorrow that comes from this. The first guy goes down because it's like kind of you get the banter between the boys, and they're all
mhm,
laughing and joking at each other, and there's no real threat of consequence yet until
mhm,
that first kid gets a rock in his shoe. You're like,
yeah,
then the warning goes off. Then the guard steps off the tank or whatever vehicle he was on, and second warning comes out, and then you're like, oh shit. Then all the guys kind of start to turn around little by little, and I mean, obviously they want to win the game, so they know that this is something that needs to happen. It's a necessity. That's just how the game is played. But like this morbid curiosity to turn and look is there. Um, and I think that comes with the spirit of youth. You know what I mean? Because they're all very young boys or young men anyway, and they all want to. I mean, what young boy doesn't want to poke the dead cat, with a stick? So they want it. They want to look.
well, they aged them up a bit for this too. They're
Did they?
younger in the book.
And
Yeah,
again,
Garrity is 16 in the book,
and
and
again,
they're all pretty young.
yeah, and again, as like a metaphor for just the times we're living in, where everybody is very quick to look and not really do anything, but just look. People really want to see negative things happen, and I think it's a reflection of again the times we're living in. And by the time you get to the first kid going down, so I'm preparing myself mentally for this thing to happen. It's gonna happen. It's got to happen. That's what the movie's about. That first kid that goes down and gets shot in the head, they don't make it. They don't paint it as a pretty poof and that's it.
Mm-mm.
The kid's literal like half of his lower face and jaw gets blown off, and it's right there on screen in front of you. And again, like once that first thing hit, then I'm like, okay, now I know what this is going to be like. And
Mhm.
basically, the entire tempo of the film changed immediately for me. And it gets so much worse from there. So much worse. And again, like Missy said, you start feeling for all these guys. They all have, interpersonal relationships that they're building and creating with each other. And I equated it kind of like to my past where I used to be a temp worker and I would get thrown into like temp warehouses, and you just became best buddies with whomever you were working with for the day or for the next couple of days. And even though it may be a short span of time, much like, later on you talk about moments in the movie,
Yeah,
or
this
that
moment
comes up.
matters.
It's definitely relatable on that level. So I was glad that, there's these personal moments in the movie that I could relate to. Um, but just watching these guys drop one by one by one, and for something as simple as dysentery or, a twisted ankle, what have you.
Hmm.
Like, there's some gore that happens in the film. Sean, take it away, man.
2 years ago, maybe, our friend Chris Saunders gave me Stephen King's then newest novel, Fairy Tale, and I hadn't read any new Stephen King since Doctor Sleep in 2010. And I read it, I devoured it, and I loved it. And one of the things that made me realize about Stephen King is Stephen King writes about a, an experience he had, and it's in America that I can relate to in my earlier years. Like he writes about it in this way that's so I can touch it, I can taste it, I can feel it, right? And he always does. And one of the aspects of that we see repeated in his works, the bond between young men. This isn't. I'm not leaving females out. Stephen King's a man, right? He was a boy, so that's what he knows. So that's what he writes. Now, I'm not saying his female characters are weak at all, but I'm just saying this is like, and as a man, formerly a boy, I connect with this because I know the experiences he's talking about. And you see it in Stand By Me, you see it in It to some degree. Although I feel like that, we've seen that very specifically has now been like, you see that in other things as well. But this has that. It like I related to these characters so much, and I just slipped into feeling for them very easily. And the whole time in your mind watching this, you're like, they're helping one another out, and it's like, man, like you're really making it harder on yourself because this isn't like a team exercise at all, right? So the cutthroats among them are wanting people to go down one by one because it betters their odds. And like, our main characters do not want that. And it even further endears them to me. But I think because of that, I just found it so incredibly powerful. And I loved all of the characters, the Musketeers especially. Like, oh man, Olson, Baker, Pete,
And
Garrity.
Garrity.
Yeah, I mean, just wow. And oh man, Olson, God, Olson was so great. 10 Naked Ladies. I love that. I love it so much. Um, but one of the things I didn't understand, and I'm going to lean on you guys, especially Missy, to kind of explain this to me. So I have no problems with the movie. However, if I dial that back a little bit and go, I, I, okay, I don't know that I buy that the major would have been like, okay, give him that gun. He won't do anything. And then I definitely don't buy. I feel like they should have handed Pete the gun and he should have shot the major, but instead he levels the gun at the major and takes like 30 seconds at the very least. No, I don't buy it at all. They would have shot him instantly. Instantly. So
I'll
that
be
was a
honest, that's kind of
little
the ending I thought was going to happen.
and that was a little bit of a misstep for me because I'm like, I'm not buying it. But here's what I want to know. He shoots him and then turns around and there's nobody in the street and he walks away or runs away, whatever it is. And I'm like, so wait a minute. Okay, so obviously the street was just thronged, right, with people.
Hmm.
So did none of that happen and he actually died?
Oh, I didn't even think of that
Because
because that's totally new. That's not the way the book ends.
and I didn't understand how I was supposed to take that because so when he turns and there's nobody there, I'm like, okay, maybe there's nobody in front of him because it looked like he had passed the crowd and come up to the major, right? Whatever. So
Hmm.
technically you shoot the major and maybe, but you turn around, there's nobody there. But it was such a weird, and so I'm assuming that they did that for exactly this reason to get you to wonder. but I don't know that it's exactly earned, just simply because like there's nothing that there's no aberration in the stream of how this thing goes down. So he gets
Hmm.
again, he's pointing the gun at the major for like 30 seconds. No way. Nope. Not at all. I mean, there were multiple armed people in the major's, you know, entourage.
Right.
So
But the major told him to stand down.
yeah,
I do
but I
remember
mean,
that.
once he's pointing the gun at him, no, I'm not buying that at all. So that was just weird. But so in the book, is there the whole thing with Garrity wants to kill the major?
In the book, I was actually trying to remember because you know that his dad got killed, or you know that the men came and took his father away, but it's very vague,
Okay.
and it's implied that maybe his father was had a big mouth. But the whole thing with the movie where his dad wanted him to think for himself and showed him these for that wasn't there. A lot of like I like that they built up even when they talk about that it's voluntary, but
Yeah, but
everybody
it's
signs
not.
up for it anyways, because it's not really voluntary. Like that's something I've always wondered about because it's not a super long book. It's like a 300-page book. That's never even been clear to me in the book because they always say it's a lottery, but there's a point where one of the boys is talking about how he signed up. And it's like, wait, so is it voluntary or is it not? So they kind of talk about that a little bit in the movie, which, I liked better. So because it's voluntary, but it's not. Everybody does
Well,
it.
it's not because they don't have any other They talk
Right,
about it at length in the book, right? It's like, yeah, it's voluntary, but it's the only way out. So they're
right.
saying, yeah, you
Do you
don't have
know
to do this, but it's
anybody?
the only door.
Hmm.
I
But
feel like they kind of correct that in the film when they have the out date, like the back out date. So I feel like it is voluntary,
Yeah.
even though they do bring it up like, is it though? But you still have the free will to
Yeah.
back out by a certain time. So I feel like, yeah, it is a voluntary thing.
because there's a back out date in the book too, and I forget
Okay.
exactly what they say, but I always took it as it was implied that yeah, but if you back out, they're still gonna come for you. Like I don't think it's implicitly said, and I can't remember exactly who talks about it in order to find it, but it's something I've always wondered about that they give you a back out date, but it always sounded to me like, yeah, but you can't really back out anyways
Well, so the Vietnam thing makes perfect sense because it's the same thing
with the
where, like,
draft.
here, it's like literally you don't have to do this, but everybody signs up because it's the only way out, right? So, and that was a common thing around the time of Vietnam where it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, but if I go to the into the military, I get 3 square meals a day, a roof over my head, and I get, like it's a way out of, and it still is for some people, in impoverished areas and whatnot. Like it's still kind of a way out. And so I feel like hearing you say that, King, talking about the Vietnam allegory makes perfect sense to me because it is for poor people, the military is like a no-brainer.
As far as the thing with the major, though, I mean, I think that's a really, I'm going to see it again, and
You already have 2 more viewings planned, if I'm not
but
mistaken.
I'm weird and obsessed with things.
No,
And
I don't think that's weird at all.
so I'll pay attention when I see it again. See, I thought the whole thing was because the rules of the whole thing are so staunch. Like you get your warnings and then
Yeah.
you get your ticket. That I mean, the major had to know that he was going to shoot him. I I think he was playing by the rules of his own game, unless what you're saying is that it's all in his head and the people aren't there. I didn't notice that, but I was really fixated on Peter and the characters, especially since I didn't know what was coming because
Right, right, because they fooled you because it wasn't in the book.
right, the version I know, Garrity wins. And in this version, it was Peter. And then he wished for the gun and so on.
I think the people were actually there. My question is, when he takes that gun and levels it at the
Hmm.
major, does he actually get shot and that's it? I
Right.
think the
I
people are
don't
there
know.
before that because it's the finish line, but it just the whole way that that goes down makes absolutely zero sense in the context of the world they've created. And just the empty street at the end made me think like,
Right.
oh man.
When he turns
But
around and walks into the rain, there's no one there,
yeah, any
which
which
I
way,
didn't think about, but it's,
even if it doesn't work, I don't care.
I don't care.
I
Right. I
loved
don't
it,
care.
and like I'm not going to take my girlfriend to see it again, but I'm thinking like I actually might see if my dad wants to go see it. I mean, he may talk. Wow, why are they doing that? Like he may talk through it, like he's want to do.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's one of those movies where I feel like I want people to see it. You know, it's like,
Hmm.
and also I feel like nobody listens, right? Nobody listens to when filmmakers and authors do allegories that are trying to say, pay attention because, hey guys, this is what's happening. Nobody pays.
Right.
Oh, that's just a movie, whatever.
Well,
But like,
and
I feel like
it's really true to the story, and this was written in the 70s.
yeah, but it just shows you like so you
Right.
could take that you could take it in two ways. You can take it as oh, see, so I mean, people are always saying that it's doom and gloom, but it just goes on and on. Or you can say, yeah, we're further down that rabbit hole, and maybe we're closer to a crux, a
Hmm.
breaking point than you think. I don't know, but I mean, it it doesn't feel that far away.
Right.
Like I mean, and here's the line that got me. The major's like, nowhere else. He said, this is a paraphrase. It's something like where else would you get this opportunity? And that's just such an America thing where it's like I'm literally I'm kicking you in the mouth going, where else are you going to get this kind of opportunity? It's like,
Missy, I had a question about one of the characters, the one that revealed himself as the major son. Is that a factor in the book at all?
Stebbins. It happens exactly like he says. Yeah, Stebbins is the weird guy at the back of the group through the whole book. He keeps to himself. Every once in a while, he says something weird and cryptic, and he's one of the final three in the book. They actually in the book, McFreeze goes, then Stebbins, and then Garrity wins. Here, Stebbins went first, and then Garrity and McFreeze. But he was the major son. That was his whole goal. That none of that changed.
So what do they emphasize on whether or not he's like illegitimate, or were they
Yes,
aware of each? Okay, okay.
but yeah, he calls something out. I think in both the book and the movie, the major has many illegitimate
yeah, he says
children.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was illegitimate, and he wanted to win, and his wish was going to be taken into his father's house, and it's the same as the book.
It's interesting because he says, I want to be taken to my father's house. And I thought the wish was like to be taken in as like live there, but he says, and have tea or something. So he just literally wants to go into his father's house like for an afternoon. That's super sad.
In the book, they don't say the thing about tea. It's just he
Okay. Okay.
wanted
He just wants to be recognized by his
he
father.
wants to be
Yeah.
recognized.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The only thing
Definitely.
they changed about him was the whole getting sick thing. That was a different character that they didn't use, because they took a lot of the things that happens to throughout, and they stuffed them into some of these, like they combined characters into
Well,
one
they
with
folded
some
the
of the
100 down to
Yeah.
50, right?
right.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, his character is really fucking grim with all the shit he says. But the one thing that stuck out to me was as soon as they hit that hill and they see that there's an incline sign, and he says, most of you aren't going to make it up that hill.
Yeah.
And again, one of those things where keep your head down, keep trudging, and all you can hear is utter chaos happening behind them. And when they get to the top of the hill, I think they do look back for a second and you just see bodies everywhere. That part really kind of ups the ante on bleakness. But yeah, it's because I mean, don't get me wrong, the film is bleak, but yeah, right there, I think that's like the turning point where it's like the banter isn't going to be fun anymore. This isn't going to be, the buddy buddy stuff isn't going to continue on. And at some point, I'm sorry, what's his name again? The general's
Stebbins.
Stebbins.
son? Stebbins actually says like this is where he says maybe it's best that we don't help each other
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, when they're
This
Hmm.
is
down to the last five.
yeah, this is where we need to start playing the game pretty much, and
Right.
because we're like Sean said, we're only making it worse for ourselves.
For ourselves.
So yeah, his character is just kind of this looming oddball,
Hmm.
and yeah, I don't know. I think the few bits of dialogue that he does have, I do like him just because he's that constant reminder of the grim fate to come for everyone.
He's very true to character. I mean, most of what he says is a lot of the dialogue from this is straight out of the book. I still remember the first time I read the book, and then the movie hit me the same way. When the first kid gets his ticket, you realize how serious they are about you can't stop. And people are dying because they get cramps or blisters.
I forget who says it, but the thing about like, I thought that, the first person that went down, they'd say warning number three, and then pull the
The
trigger and a
guns would
flag
pop
that
and
says
say bang.
bang would come out of like,
Confetti would come out everywhere.
Yeah, I think McFreeze said it. They know, we know as readers or viewers, but you don't know until it hits you.
it's dawned on me, the original four Bachman books,
Hmm.
it's Rage, The Long Walk, Road Work, and Running Man.
Uh-huh. We get Running
Two of
Man
those are
soon
come.
too.
Yeah, and I don't think it looks good.
It looks
Um,
closer to the book than, I mean, the
does
Arnold
it?
Schwarzenegger one is nothing like the book.
No,
It's
I know
fun,
that.
but it's
It's
nothing
fun,
like
but
the
it's not.
story.
I guess I'll see it. I mean, it's Edgar Wright, but I just thought that was interesting that we're getting two of them this year.
Oh, and no, just about the noted instances in Vietnam where people were, put in position for a while, like a guard position to look over, troops during the evening, and they have the thing where they have like a dead stare, and they come up and they have to snap them out of it, and it's not that they're in a trance, they're actually asleep with their eyes wide open,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and they're asleep with their eyes wide open, and it's really interesting that you guys brought up the Vietnam correlation where because that's what happens during the walk where people are falling asleep and they're out cold but keeping
They're
pace.
walking.
They're
Right.
walking but they're completely asleep, and it's
Hmm.
kind of terrifying how the brain can just take over like that. But yeah, that was just one of the things I wanted to bring up. It's that bit was just an interesting fact and tidbit to add into the film, and I did appreciate that. Um, the other thing I wanted to talk about was just I guess you would say the realism. These guys are walking. I mean, dysentery, stopping and turning around and taking a piss. Gangway, here, watch your step. It's not having the time to take a shit or wipe your ass, and there's that scene where the guy comes up, he's like, hey, can you break off, man? Not to be
Yeah.
rude, we like you, but you smell like
You stink. Right.
Oh,
dude, like, can you break off for a little bit, please? But there's those harsh realities of what this contest is, and it's graphic,
Yeah.
yeah,
again,
it really is.
and it's not something that I've seen on film. I can't think of when I've seen anything like that on film. It's just those kinds of depictions you just don't normally see, and something as simple as taking a dump can get you shot in the head, man.
Right.
It's totally ridiculous how it teaches us that the most you know human things that we do are now taken for granted, and how dehumanizing this
Yeah.
contest actually is. Horrific. And then we go into more of the deaths, and it just gets worse and worse, like I said earlier. um Practical effects, Are we dealing with a lot of practical stuff? I didn't have time to research that.
I'm honestly not sure. I think it was probably a combination of both,
Yeah,
but I'm not positive
because I gotta
on
say,
that.
when that tank scene happened, I it looked pretty good to me, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And they let him scream for a little bit.
Yeah, that was
yeah.
brutal. There was a couple like the gut shot with Olson, and I forget who says it. Like they're gonna let him suffer
Hmm.
because
As a warning.
it's
So
it's
yeah,
a warning not to do the charge of the light brigade, right? So, but
exactly.
they those two they really I felt like let
Hmm.
suffer.
Well,
That was brutal.
those things are in the book, although Olson is not the one who gets gut shot. He was
Okay.
combined. That was a combination thing. Um, but the guy who gets his feet run over, that also happened. I don't think it was anybody memorable. It just happens, and it's something I always remembered. But it wasn't one of the main characters that like I'd remember by name.
And then just watching the one kid, yeah, the one kid that runs off the first time,
Yeah.
and
Mm,
just I don't think they gave him a warning. I think that was the rule. If you step off, there are no
yeah,
Yeah, if you
warnings.
step
Just
off, you're
it's
dead. No warning.
yeah,
yeah.
and you see them do it later on with the other young
Hmm.
man who strips down and starts running
Yeah.
off the road, and it's not like merciful. It's in 50 cal they turn on him on top of the
Yes.
mounted thing. It's just immediate extermination, and that sense of overkill is terrifying, man.
Yeah, it really is. I'd like to say so. The guy that plays Baker Tut Niat, his performance during the scene where he literally has to like shit while he's walking, I thought was commendable. The fact is, it's another war allegory. The When you're the most vulnerable, you're the most vulnerable. It's like the whole thing
Hmm.
with Psycho, right? People are like, you're so vulnerable in the shower, you're even more vulnerable if you got to take a shit. So I thought he did he was great. I mean, they were all great, but that impressed me. The other thing I was going to say, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen this movie, but my friend Jay Brown lent me this movie a couple years ago, and I watched it a couple times, and it blew me away. There's a movie from 1969 called "They Shoot Horses, Don't They?"
I can't say that I have.
And
Never heard
this
of it.
movie is about during the Depression. They would actually do this is like real. They would do these things where they would sponsor, like you had to dance. So you signed up as a couple and you danced until you were the last couple dancing.
Oh, the dance till you drop. Yeah.
And it's messed up. I mean, it is messed up. It is a dark, dark movie. And it doesn't
Okay.
necessarily sound like it would be, but I definitely feel like that had to have also had some influence on Stephen King and the whole genre in general.
Yeah, that scene in Midsummer. I mean, it's that there it is again.
Yeah.
But not to the graphic extent you're talking about. I do want to see this movie though.
It's a very good
It sounds
movie, and
interesting.
the ending is just oh man, it's something. The ending lets you know like no, we've been for real the whole time. So it was cool. I'm like, man, what year is this? 69? Holy cow. Final thoughts on the long walk or anything we didn't cover. Like if you guys have notes or something that we didn't go over, please. Now's the time.
Missy, if you want to take it away.
Just that I had read that this was shot in chronological order. I read an interview with David Johnson, who played Peter. This was all shot in chronological order, so they're shooting where they're walking miles and miles every day, and so these boys actually all did bond together. They by the time
Oh,
they get to the movie or to the end of the movie and they've gone through all this shit together, they shot it all in order. So they formed very strong friendships while they were shooting this.
That's super cool. Anthony?
like I said, if anything, my only critique of the film was about taking the machine gun and raising it at the general. I honestly believe I'm like, okay, so they're just gonna light him up right now, and this is the end of the movie, or he's gonna do something completely different and just basically say, yeah, I was faking friendship with all these guys the whole time and accept some lavish gift. I like the little story they do about, didn't that one guy want a baby elephant and they gave it
Yeah,
to him and
right.
he rode home on the motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like that kind of shit. And I was thinking maybe that's what it was going to be, but like you said, I had a hard time buying that ending where it's like they're not going to let him just walk off into the sunset, like that's not. I don't know if that's how this police state would work. You know what I mean? Because at this point now you're a dissident and they have to deal with dissidents. You know what I mean? Or dissident. Yeah. So I'll just say this: when Garrity turns around and after that brief exchange where the other fellow says, "I'm going to go. It's time for me to sit down now,"
Hmm.
and then he says, "No, no, no, walk with me. Walk with me a while," and then he stays back. The whole audience went, "No!" You could hear people saying, "No, no, no, no." I mean, again, what do you expect to come from this? Like what were you expecting? Like, there's no happy ending here.
Right.
But part of that too is if they knew the book, that's because that's when it got me. That's when it all
Okay.
switches. Because and if you read the book, Peter sits down and
Yeah.
Garrity is the last one
Yeah.
standing. So
Uh,
I mean, it could have been a double edged. No, what's happening?
yeah, and they really push for that too, because when he takes the rosary off of the one guy and he says, like, yeah, make sure, please give this to my mom. So I'm thinking that's going to happen. And I thought that was going to be a thing that carried on. And again, subverting expectation, it turned out it didn't have anything to do with it anymore because they want you to look the other direction while they do the bait and
Yeah.
switch. And it was
Hmm.
effective, but again, that ending, it was a hard sell for me. And Sean, I didn't really pick up on the fact that he was probably dead. But it makes absolute sense because it just
It does.
it creates this like impossible scenario after
Yeah.
everything that was happening right there. And it's not like you know, killing the head of a major drug syndicate where it's like, well, what do we do now?
Right.
Nobody
Yeah,
just
right.
puts
It's
their
just
guns down like, wait a minute, what do we do now? Like that's not what happens typically because there's a what do they call it? A power vacuum at
yeah,
that
right.
point. So whomever's still running in line with that, you feel like that would be the natural outcome. They're going to execute him. So the ending, again, is a little odd, but again, I mean, I guess it works, but like you said, when he raises the gun and all that stuff, I'm like, this I don't buy. But I
If
don't
he had
want
just fired immediately, I would have had an easier time with
right,
it. But
right,
Mm.
exactly. Not the whole you can have anything you want, son.
yeah.
Like it just doesn't make sense. But I don't think that takes away from the
No.
powerful impact of this movie at all. Ugly and powerful watch. I do want to go see this movie again. If I can sneak away sometime this week, I might go do that. I know we have him coming up. I've got a screening of him
Hmm.
later this week. But if I could squeeze in the long walk one more time, I really do want to sit down and just kind of take this one in one more time because it's powerful. Whether or not you enjoy this type of film or don't, it's an ugly ride, and I think people need to take it. And I think the audience that I sat down with last night understood that, and I'm hoping more people will do the same. So please go watch this movie theatrically. It deserves your attention, but again, it comes with a warning. Like be ready for something that's going to hurt you.
Yeah. Well said. I'll just add, the whole thing with the ending too. There was a part of me that, other than the suspending the disbelief of him leveling the gun at the major and not being shot instantly, the whole reason Garrity dies for him is because he says, I can't see it, meaning the light, because they have the conversation
Hmm.
about see the light, right? See the positive thing. And
Right.
so he doesn't do that. So that was another, I'm like, no, like the whole, like, don't. Like, that's the ending the audience wants, but that's not the end. Like, no, he gave you this,
Right.
like, do what you're going to do with the wish and the money to make up a better world, but it's not this. So also, a little bit disappointing. And that even makes me wonder, does he actually when Peter stops, does he actually die? And Garrity, but again,
Right.
there's an element that they didn't earn any of that because there's no aberration to the story. So there's no point where you could say like, that's where, okay, I see where reality stops and the dream starts or whatever. But like you just said, Anthony, it doesn't affect the way I feel about the movie at all. I don't care. It earned it just by being what it was. And I think everybody should go see what it is.
Well, I'll pay better attention when I see it again. But what you were saying about that Peter might be dead is an interesting. So they flip the ending, but the book kind of ends that way too, because Garrity's the last one standing, but he sees a dark figure, and then starts running. So he may have been dead at the end of the book, anyways.
So in
And
a way, they use the
the
ending of the
movie,
book. It's just, yeah, okay. So
I
that's
didn't see
interesting.
it that way initially, but I like your interpretation, and it seems to fit well.
Yeah, your interpretation reminds me of the ending of Nope, where you see the main character, with the big letters above him, way out yonder, and
Hmm.
and you're left to assume that that's where he is. He's in the ether now. He's dead, and that's
Right.
Right.
kind of what I take from what you said right now regarding
Yeah, me too.
that theory. So, I mean, it's a strong possibility he is, but final thought, I loved it. Want to see it again. Everybody else go watch it.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah, same. I loved it, and like it's an instant favorite for me. It won't be for everybody, but I loved it.
That's awesome. That makes me happy because I know you had a lot riding on it. So uh, that's a long walk, and kudos to everybody involved in that movie. And just like all three of us have said, go see it. If you don't, you're cheating yourself. So this is a Horror Vision. My name is Sean.
And I'm the arthritic Anthony.
And I'm still just Missy.
Hapless teenagers beset by demons in the woods. A strange new drug that turns art into murder. A can't beat a deal on a new house with a horrifying past. A video game that might usher in the apocalypse. From the demented mind of Sean C. Baker, author of a collection of desires, Shadow Play, and Murder Virus, comes Volume 4, collecting Baker's no sleep work along with several never-before published short stories. This 99-cent volume also includes the opening chapter of the author's forthcoming teenage giallo novel, Black Gloves and Broken Hearts, due out later this year.